Hey everybody, welcome once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Let's jump right into it. We haven't been around since Friday. Lots of stuff happening since then. Let's start off with the number one team in the East. Let's say the Atlantic Division, maybe not the East, but the Atlantic Division, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Austin Matthews takes another bump in that glass shoulder of his. He's going to be out for a while. What's our update on him, and how is this going to affect the Leafs, do you think?
I know, yeah. So he'll be out at least a month with that shoulder injury. At least it wasn't the same shoulder as last season. It's his left shoulder. But, man, that was a really solid hit by Trouba. It's just like you just saw him going in, and it's just like, man, that was solid. But yeah, I think Matthews just says it's like it just got him at like a weird angle sort of thing. So it's just a freak injury or whatever. But we saw in the Leafs first game without Matthews last night against Calgary. I think that their only goal came on a 5-on-3 towards the end of the third. But I don't think like they'll miss Matthews, but having Tavares and being able to move Kadri up in the lineup with Marner and Marlowe. I don't think it'll be too much, too bad of him for missing him. Believe they went 11-7-2 last year without him in the lineup. So it wasn't like their record went downhill, and that was without Tavares last year. And I wonder with the William Nylander situation as well, as that continues to draw out, if the Leafs will look for a trade or if they'll finally be able to get something done. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how the Leafs go, at least this next month of November without Matthews in the lineup.
Yeah, they seem to be struggling a little bit the last week and a half. And now with the injury, it's going to be interesting to see how they react. One of the other top teams in the Atlantic, Tampa Bay Lightning, also got bit by the injury bug, with Victor Hedman and Palat falling down. I'm not sure what their status is just yet, but it sounds like Hedman might be out for a little while as well. Is Tampa going to continue to roll along? I shouldn't say are they going to roll along, since they got absolutely spanked by Arizona after Hedman got hurt. So are they going to be able to move forward like Toronto without Matthews with this injury at their back end?
Yeah, we'll see. They got spanked by Arizona, and I believe they were down at least 2-0 to New Jersey in the first period last time I saw it.
It is 2-2 there now, by the way.
2-2 there now. But yeah, but you think at least with the left side, you got Ryan McDonough, you got Mikhail Sergachev on that left-hand side. So they're pretty good depth-wise there. And then offensively, you got Sergachev, who can run a power play pretty easily, even though he had a really rough night in Arizona. He was a -6 on the night, which is not good for any defenseman on any night. But Hedman will be reevaluated in a week, so at least I saw the hit, and I think it could have been a lot worse than it was. I think it's just one of those awkward things where he's just like that extra foot away from the boards when Reeves cranked him. And I believe Palat's only day-to-day, but I think their forward depth is also one of the best in the league as well. But Hedman, especially, at least long-term, you want to get him back in the lineup as soon as possible. But at least in the short term with McDonough and Sergachev on that left-hand side, I don't think they have too much to worry about.
Well, and we have the red-hot Montreal Canadiens still in that division as well. They seem to be chugging along. They're used to having players out with injuries, and they're only going to get better as they start getting some of those players back. Carey Price looking Carey Price-like once again. What do you think of Montreal? Are they going to keep this pace up in the Atlantic?
Oh, yeah. It's like I'm starting to become a believer in Montreal. Like Max Domi, again, is on a 6-game point streak, 5 goals, 8 points in that time. And Carey Price has absolutely shut down the Boston Bruins on the weekend. I believe that glove save that he had at the end of the second period, just vintage Carey Price. that round the world, like nobody does it better than Carey Price. And he also passed Patrick Waugh to take sole possession of second place all time in Habs winless with his 290th career win. But yeah, those Habs is just like they just keep coming at you, wave after wave. I know they're dealing with a couple injuries. I believe Noah Julesen's out with his second straight game with an upper body injury. But as of right now, it doesn't matter who's out. They just continue to put guys in, and they continue to produce every night.
Pittsburgh Penguins starting to look like the class of the Metropolitan Division. Sidney Crosby not only got his first goal of the season, but he got his first 5 of the season on the Western Canadian road trip. What can you tell us about Pittsburgh, and do you think they're primed to make another deep Stanley Cup run?
Oh yeah. So that game against the Canucks, it was all the big guns. It was, I think, Evgeny Malkin, who's probably like the least talked about superstar this year so far. The guy has 18 points in 9 games going into tonight's games, and he was just an absolute beast that entire night against the Canucks. And Sidney Crosby is like, what can you say about Crosby? It's like ever since he got that first goal in Edmonton, I believe he's got another one tonight, so he's up to 6 goals in the past couple games here. But yeah, they just show that they're the class of the NHL every night. And Phil Kessel, again, one of the most underrated players in the NHL as well. But I think Malkin right now, I think he could be up for the Hart Trophy if he continues his play the way he started this season. But like when those guys want to dominate a game, they just go out and do it. And I was a little disappointed that Matt Murray didn't play this weekend. I think I saw a really good GIF. I think it was like Matt Murray starting, and then he found out Besser was returning to the lineup, and it was the Forrest Gump starting his run down the road. So, but yeah, Pittsburgh's only lost one game in regulation, and it looks like they're going to take control of that Metropolitan Division as of right now.
New Jersey Devils in 5th in the Metropolitan Division, but still a single-digit amount of games played. A game or two, they could be in second place, right behind Pittsburgh, nipping at their heels. They seem to be the other team that I think is going to step out in that division. Yeah, it's hard to believe they've only played less than 10 games to start the season. I believe, they've only played 8 games so far to start the season. They're playing Tampa Bay right now. As we said, it's 2-2, but does New Jersey look like a team that's going to contend for that title too, with the way Kyle Palmieri's been playing, Taylor Hall's been playing fantastic, and they're getting great goaltending from Keith Kincaid.
Yeah, I know, and I saw Corey Schneider just got activated off injured reserve. So at least I think New Jersey is the only team in the NHL that hasn't used or hasn't started a second goalie this year so far. But yeah, Kincaid's been great. That top line, I think Palmieri, I think he's a goal a game so far still. And Taylor Halls keeps doing his thing. I think Damon Severson has had a really good, quiet, good start to the season. I believe he has 7 points in 8 games. I think the last couple of years, I think he's sort of been a whipping boy in New Jersey with that big contract that he's gotten. But even though he hasn't been getting much power play time, he's been basically a point a game to start the season on that back end. I think Will Butcher hasn't been as great as he had that crazy good start last season for New Jersey. But we'll see how things go. Their depth outside of that top line is I'll have to see how things go as the season goes. Like they got some names like Travis Zajac. Has been good. Blake Coleman's been playing the puck in the net. But yeah, it's they're one of those underrated teams, and maybe they could go on a quiet run in the playoffs.
It's funny, my home phone is ringing, and that thing rings once a month. So Carolina Hurricanes are back down to earth. They're still in second in the Metropolitan Division, but hey, Sebastian Aho is going. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, so in tonight's game, he picked up another assist to extend his season-starting point streak to 12 games. And in those 12 games, he has 16 points, and he has an assist in every single game, which now ties Wayne Gretzky record for 12 assists in 12 games to start a season. So, you know, those Gretzky records, they don't really come up too often. So when somebody is able to at least tie it, it is pretty crazy. And I believe Michael Furlan on that assist today got his 100th career point on that goal. But Carolina, they're starting to get some goaltending health. Scott Darling's back in net tonight after missing the start of the season. And right now, Carolina is going to carry 3 goalies right now. At least I think they started a 4-game road trip, and they're keeping McElhinney, Mrazek, and Darling all on the roster right now. So that's something to keep an eye on. But yeah, that top line of Aho, Teravainen, and Furland have really been good. I think that second line of Stahl, Williams, and Fugeli have cooled off a little bit. But Aho and Teravainen and all those guys, they continue to roll. But yeah, we'll see. They continue to get a lot of shots on goal every night, which I think has been one of the most impressive things to see, where they're averaging I think maybe 35 shots a game every time I take a look on all their games. But yeah, we'll see. They're starting to come back down to earth a little bit, but with the other teams in Metropolitan sort of being just a little bit above 500 or a little bit below, they're sort of right in the thick of things there.
And, of course, they're bringing fun into game-ending celebrations. So if you haven't seen it, YouTube the Carolina Hurricane and what they do with their team at the end of some of their games. Just to wrap up the Metropolitan Division, Philadelphia Flyers. We expected the New York Rangers to be bad, but the Philadelphia Flyers are really struggling right now. What do you think the case is there? Is it just is Giroux ever going to get that bad rap off of him for lack of heart, lack of carrying a team? Even though he gets points every year, that team just seems to struggle year after year.
Well, the biggest thing is goaltending. I think in Philadelphia, I think that's the one thing that Philadelphia has been. I forget how many years now that they've just been hoping to get that number one goalie that can carry them. They gave that huge contract to Briskalov, but then they had to buy him out. Steve Mason, they brought in Brian Elliott, and then they traded away Sergei Bobrovsky, who got a couple Vezina trophies now. So I think Carter Hart can't get there soon enough, but they've given up the most goals in the NHL. They've given up 46 goals in 11 games to start the season. They've used 3 different goalies. Brian Elliott right now has a 2-5 record and an .886 save percentage. Michael Neuwirth made his first start of the season, letting 6 goals on, I think, 22 shots or something like that. So it's not been fun in Philadelphia right now because they can't defend. They can somewhat put the puck in the net, but if you can't get a save, if your defense can't help you guys out, it's going to be a long season in Philadelphia.
Well, the Central Division, Nashville's been the cream of the crop there. They have had a couple losses in a row now. But even last night before Minnesota lost to Vancouver, Minnesota was in 5th place in their division with a 6-2-2 record. Now 6-3-2. This division is absolutely crazy. One of the teams in that top 5, actually, let's talk about 2 of the teams in that top 5 that haven't got a lot of love from us. That's Colorado Avalanche and the Chicago Blackhawks. Colorado is absolutely, in my opinion, have either the number 1 or number 2 line in the entire NHL right now with McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog. Do they have enough support pieces for them to keep this tear up?
I know, yeah. That's been the question mark, I think, every year, and especially in the playoffs. Every once in a while, they'll get some support. But I think Carl Soderberg has had a really underrated start to the season. I know, his first couple of years after getting that huge contract from Colorado, he did not live up to that whatsoever. But last year he started feeling it a little bit, and he's actually gotten a really good start to the season. But yeah, that top line, like, my goodness, it's just like every night. It's like they're putting up a few points. Like, I think that game on Friday against Ottawa, they combined for 10 points. Mikko Rantanen's leading the league in points with 21 in 12 games. McKinnon's right behind him with 18 points, and Landeskog has 10 goals to start the year. So if that line can continue to stay hot, and Semyon Varlamov, talk about a guy that's absolutely crazy numbers. He's 4-2-2 to start the year with a .950 save percentage and a 1.62 goals against average. So this guy has been basically lights out every night for them. And Philip Grubauer, even though his numbers aren't as good as Varlamov's, has been really good when he's been in net. And that back end has been really good. Tyson Barrie, I believe, already has like 9 or 10 assists already to start this year. But yeah, we'll see how the depth turns out. Like, I know they picked up Marco Dano off waivers to sort of help in there, but I could see them as a potential team as the year goes along to try to pick up some winger depth as the season goes along, heading to the trade deadline.
Chicago Blackhawks get Corey Crawford back in net. And is this a team that is over exceeding right now, or did fans in general just not expect too much from these guys? With guys like Jonathan Toews, Captain Crunch, right, and Patty Kane, are they really starting off the season showing everybody, proving to everybody that they still have it?
I know, yeah. Well, yeah, just for me, it's like I think I had Chicago finishing maybe like third last or something this year, especially with the Corey Crawford injury and not knowing there. But like, so many guys had down years last year, like Toews, Kane, Brandon Saad, Keith, like all those guys had just not great years last year. But like Patrick Kane, I know he started the first 11 games with 11 goals. Which was like the first Blackhawk to score 11 goals in the first 11 games since Bobby Hull in, I believe, 67, 68. So that's that's good company right there. But yeah, Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat, those guys have really come out, and some rookies have really stood up. Henry Yokoharu on their back end has been a workhorse for them. I believe that he's been playing with Duncan Keith to start this year on their top pairing, and we'll be seeing them in Vancouver this Wednesday. So we'll really be getting a good look at them and how they've been playing up front. But yeah, Corey Crawford, what can you say about that guy in net? I think he had a huge standing ovation in his first home game back in Chicago, and that guy means so much to the Blackhawks, because like last year, their entire season they were right up in the standings, and as soon as he got hurt, they plummeted down, and that was their year for them. But yeah, they're right in the thick of things. That Central Division is going to be really interesting to see who finishes where, especially with all those good teams.
St. Louis Blues still in single digits in points. Is it just a matter of them being like the Philadelphia Flyers, where they're getting poor goaltending? Or is it more with guys like Alex Pietrangelo that only have 1 point still? Are they just really missing out on like team chemistry, or are guys like Jaden Schwartz and Braden Shen just not reproducing like they did last year?
Well, yeah. Well, Schwartz especially, I believe he only has 1 goal and 3 points to start this year. Ryan O'Reilly's been their workhorse. I believe he has like 11 assists and 14 points to start this year. But I believe maybe last game, I believe they switched their lines back, putting Tarasenko with Shen and Schwartz, where they started off so hot last year, and hopefully that gives them a bit of a spark. I know they beat Chicago pretty good, 7-3, I believe, on the weekend. But Jake Allen did go down with a head injury in that game. So even though Allen hadn't been playing the greatest to start this year, that's something to keep an eye on, because Chad Johnson, the last couple of years in Buffalo, even though they've sucked, his numbers have not been good. And I believe they called up goalie Billy Husso from the minors. And Husso's actually had really good numbers in the American League the past couple of years. But yeah, they need a spark there, and their defense offensively, especially Pietrangelo and Colton Parayko, need to step up offensively. But they are getting some injury help. Robbie Fabry has been called up from the minors after his conditioning stint, so that will give them a spark. And Carl Gunnarsson, another defenseman, not overly offensive, but some more defensive help coming up from the minors.
Over to the Pacific Division. Before we touch on our favorite team, the Vancouver Canucks, the one that's intriguing right now to me is the Anaheim Ducks have lost 5 straight now. After getting some of their injury help back, they did lose a few other guys to some injuries, but they did get, guys like Kessler back. Getzlaff was back. They're still missing guys like Corey Perry, of course. And do you think John Gibson just had a great start and then he's cooled off a bit? Or do you think the Ducks getting a lot of these minor injuries up front are what's hurting them?
Well, I think just their biggest thing is how many shots they give up per night. Like Gibson, had literally stood up, was probably literally their main reason why they were in first place to begin the season in the Pacific Division. Even though his numbers are really great, still, it's just if you're giving up close to 40 shots every night, it doesn't matter what roster you have, you're gonna lose a lot of games. And it'd be interesting to see with Randy Carlyle. I still think that's one of the most interesting rehires ever. But I'd be interested to see if he doesn't last the first half of the season in Anaheim with their overall play defensively. But yeah, the Ducks, it's like they get some guys back from injury and then they lose a couple of guys like Nick Ritchie, who just got that contract, is out. Maxime Comtois, who had a good start to the season for them, is out. And I believe Jacob Silver, I forget if he's back, but I know he was on IR a little bit with a broken finger or something like that. But yeah, it's sort of up and down. But I think their defense can play a whole lot better because I think on paper, just their defense with Fowler, Manson, Lindholm, and I'm forgetting their fourth.
Montour.
Oh yeah, Montour. Yeah. Those guys haven't been. I believe Lindholm's been the greatest out of all of them, but they need some of those guys to really step up their game and their defense. It's as I pointed out, it's just you can't give up that many shots per game.
Edmonton Oilers not in first place, but with the amount of games that they've played, I believe they're going to get there pretty quick here. Connor McDavid, of course, is just playing absolutely lights out. Is he going to get enough support from the players around him for them to keep this up? Or is Cam Talbot going to potentially let them down during the next, let's say, 10 games or so?
Well, Talbot's starting to heat up a little bit, but yeah, McDavid continues to roll along with his play. With the Oilers, I believe they've won 3 straight games or whatever, and now they're 6-3-1, which puts them in third place, right behind the Canucks, even though they've played 3 fewer games than the Canucks to start this season. But yeah, Draisaitl's starting to heat up. I think the interesting thing to watch is Jesse Puljujarvi. It'll be his 4th straight game as a healthy scratch for the Oilers. So it'll be interesting to see, especially since he's still young, if they will send him down to the minors, because I think it's important that he gets ice time, no matter where it is. But guys I'm trying to remember their roster here, like Lucic has still had a bit of a quiet start to the season. And here, I'm just looking up the roster here.
Alex Chason seemed to have picked it up. Same with the Nuge. Those guys are starting to produce. But like you said, Draisaitl's definitely helping with the support there as well.
Yeah. Nugent Hopkins has had a really good start to the season, especially with his transition to left wing on McDavid's line, has really helped. And Yamamoto has chipped in here and there. I know Ty Ratty's injured right now. I think the one guy that can really step up is Ryan Strome. I don't believe he has any points yet to start this season. I think the only thing that's happened is that he got posterized by So that's been his season so far. And their defense, I think they can still ask a little bit more from guys like Clefbaum and Adam Larson on their back end to do a little bit more. But right now, they're winning games. So with McDavid and which is a lot more than I thought they were. I thought they were going to suck again this year, especially with that bringing back that same defense basically as last season.
Well, the other red hot team in the Pacific is, of course, the Arizona Coyotes. They've now won 4 straight games. They're 5-5. They're back to 500. Coincidence that when Galchenyuk came back, that this team got hot and started winning.
I know that, and then listening to the Spit and Chicklets podcast or whatever. I think listening to Bissonnette, I think they asked us just like, oh, what was wrong with Arizona? He's just like, well, absolutely nothing. It's just like they were getting tons of shots on goal or whatever. It's just like nothing was going in. So it's like now the pucks are going in, but now their goal differential is +6 now. So their goaltending's been really sharp with Kemper and Ranta to start this year. But yeah, getting Galchenyuk back in the lineup and guys starting to get going. Like Michael Grabner had 2 shorthanded goals against the Lightning. Derek Stefan finally got his first goal of the season, and Clayton Keller, who I think can be an absolute superstar in a couple of years here after his rookie season, has really stepped up. And that back end, I think a few guys that started off quietly, like Alex Goligoski, I think went like his first 7 or 8 games without any points, but now he's got 3 points in his last couple games here. But yeah, I think they got some an underrated goalie in Antti Ranta in net, especially his stats last year where he had a .930 save percentage. But yeah, it's just that puck's starting to go in the net for them, and they're starting to get healthy up front. So guys are starting to get in positions to best succeed on their team.
Well, one guy I mentioned to you when we watched them play the Canucks a while back was Brendan Perlini. I had no idea that guy was as fast as a skater as he was or is. Los Angeles Kings, another team in single digits in the points. Jonathan Quick back on the IR. Man, are these guys that, I've had friends that have watched some of their games this year and saying they look big and slow. Are these guys in some serious trouble right now? Or do you think it might be even the coaching or the reliance on thinking that Kovalchuk's there, that they're going to get goals? I do know that Dustin Brown's back, and he will definitely help them out. But can he play like he did last season after going a couple of seasons very quietly?
Yeah, we'll see. Well, he did get a goal in his first game back against the Rangers, but that was also the New York Rangers that they were playing.
Yeah.
So they have the exact same. They actually have the exact same record as the Kings right now, both 3-7-1. But at least for the Kings, that was really big because I think they lost 5 or 6 in a row. And I believe they're actually the league's oldest average team. I believe it's 29 years old, or a little bit over 29 years old as their roster. So the thing is,
Minnesota Wild, by the way, are the oldest team in the NHL.
Oh, okay.
Over 12 players, I believe, over the age of 30.
Sheesh. But yeah, it's like when a lot of your star players are getting up there in age. I think Jeff Carter is getting up there in age, but Kovalchuk finally found. I think he had a big game against the Rangers. He had a goal and 3 points as well against the Rangers. But those guys really need to get going. And their goaltending, I think Jack Campbell had a pretty decent night. But yeah, with Quick going back on IR, and you don't know how long, getting 2 lower body injuries in a short time span, especially with the way that he plays, being really athletic and basically doing the splits for no tomorrow every game.
Best goal in the NHL at doing the splits.
Oh yeah, it's just sheesh, yeah, that guy can do that for days. But yeah, it's just injuries to Quick and just not getting offense from anybody. I think Kopitar, I think might even going back from our last video, I said he had 3 goals to start the season and no other points. Well, he's still at 3 goals and no other points to start this year, especially with a guy that's making $10.5 million a year. You need a whole lot more from him, but hopefully Dustin Brown can spark his play this coming weeks. But I think out of all the coaches between Mike Yeo in St. Louis and Stevens in LA, I think those two guys have the hottest seats to start this season, I think.
Well, and let's get to our favorite team, the Vancouver Canucks. 7-6 so far, back over 500 this year. Getting Elias Pettersson back off of IR. 7 goals now in 7 games, 10 points in those 7 games for Pettersson. One of the positive notes for the Vancouver Canucks as the injuries they just continue to pile up. I don't think that I've ever seen this not in Vancouver. I've seen them very injury depleted, but this many, this fast into the season is just getting ridiculous. And I don't see any other team in the NHL suffering with this type of injury bug.
I know, yeah. It's just like we knew some injuries to like some of their players were going to happen, but usually it's like they're spread out enough. It's just like, oh, we got one guy back, and then the next guy gets injured, sort of thing. But like Alex Edler's out 3 to 6 weeks with an MCL sprain. Brandon Sutter last night got a separated shoulder, and it's out 4 to 6 weeks. Anders Nielsen out of nowhere, 2 to 3 weeks with a fractured finger, and with Demko still out with a concussion, that means they called up Richard Bachman from Utica, so it'll be Markstrom's net for at least the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure if there's any back-to-back games where Bachman might get into the game, but even his numbers have not been good to start the year in Utica. I believe his goals against average is above 4 goals per game, so not the greatest there, even though he does have some NHL experience at least. Chris Tanev got put on IR today, and the Canucks called up Brendan Gaunce and Darren Archibald from Utica, so some support coming up there. But I think this will be a big step for Adam Gaudette, as he's the only right-handed centerman now. For him to get a really good opportunity, at least in the top 9, I would think. But to get to Elias Pettersson, like last night, like sheesh, those 2 goals that he scored, it like, man, it just blows you.
The kid's got talent, and Brian Burke said last night that he will be better than the Sedins, especially when he is able to put on 10, 15 pounds. Just his style of play, is willing to learn the game, and just the pure skill that this guy has is unbelievable to watch every single night. I love watching even if the Canucks lose, just because of the skill that this guy continues to produce on a day-to-day basis.
Well, it's like it's all the little things too. Like before his breakaway goal in the 3rd period, he's going out there and he blocks the shot, and then it deflects right to Besser, who feeds him right on a breakaway pass there, and then he goes bar down. It's just like, Matt, is that, and then he draws a penalty towards the end of the 2nd period where Ryan Suter has the puck, and then he goes down on one of his knees instead of just going for a stick check, and Suter just shoots it right into his feet, and then Pettersson goes by him, and then he draws an elbowing call on Suter, and then he's got that wicked one-timer. I'll give Michael Del Zotto credit. That was a heck of a pass by him to feed that one-timer to Pettersson. But Pettersson's shooting percentage right now to start the season in 7 games is 43.8%, which is absolutely insane. Like, we thought Besser's shooting percentage last year was really good. Pettersson's just like blowing that out of the water. Like, I know, and the thing is, like, to start the season, it's just like every time he shoots the puck, you think he's at a score, because it's like either it's going off the post, like in Pittsburgh or whatever. In the Pittsburgh game in the 1st period, he shot one right off the bar, which was basically the same goal that he had in Florida, drawing that defenseman in and toe dragging, trying to go right under the bar. But yeah, you can't talk about Pettersson. I can't talk about Pettersson enough. And I think he got into the Canucks record books again, matching Greg Adams and Alexander McGinley's record for most goals through the first 7 games to start their Canucks career. Adams had 7 goals in his first 7 games in 87-88, and McGinley had 8 goals in his first 7 games in 95-96. So putting some pretty good company, and also he also matched a record in the NHL history book. He was only the 22nd NHL player to score 7 goals in his first 7 games, and only the 8th player in modern NHL modern history since 43-44 for a player to score 7 goals in his first 7 games. So just some great numbers there. And right now, nobody's even coming close to taking that Calder Trophy away from him. And if he stays healthy, do you think he'll pass, I believe, Trevor Linden's, or I forget if it's Linden or Burry's mark for 60 points in the rookie season?
I know Burry had 60 points in his rookie season. Yeah, so the Canucks, with all their injuries, it gives a lot of guys chances to step up. It is great. Like, we talked about the depth that they had at training camp, and that definitely was something they had going for them. And they've been able to keep all of that depth, even though they had to bury some of it on the farm. And it's been good that they've got that depth because of all these injuries that have come along. But it just seems it's all the key people that are the ones getting hurt. You know, Pettersson and Besser were hurt. Now they've got their 2 top defensemen, Tanev and Edler, right? One of their goaltenders, Nilsson, was hurt, and even Demko was hurt. Now their top checking center is Sutter's hurt, and Beagle's already hurt. So their penalty killers are dropping now. It's just, you know what? It gives opportunity for other people to step up. It'll be interesting to see. We saw last game, Ben Hutton had a heck of a game, playing almost 30 minutes of ice time against the Minnesota Wild. So, but final word before we end the show today.
Yeah, so you can follow us on our Facebook page, B&B Hockey Talk. I put a bunch of NHL GIFs or whatever with all the highlights. So if you're looking for any of the highlights for every night, I'll be uploading a bunch. I believe there's like 11 games tonight, so there'll be a lot of stuff going on tonight. And Canucks are hosting the Chicago Blackhawks tomorrow. That's the only game on Halloween night. So we'll see how Patty Kane goes up against the Canucks. And hopefully we'll see what Pettersson does for an encore from Monday's game.
Well, and if you're not following us on Facebook, remember to subscribe to us on YouTube. So once again, that was B&B Hockey Talk. We're going to see you guys tomorrow with our next episode. Stay tuned. Be safe tomorrow on Halloween. Enjoy, and we will see you guys all tomorrow.